It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. Just when I thought that most of us in the United States were going to get by with some pretty mild winter weather, well, winter came with a vengeance. Hard to believe it was snowing on Bourbon Street and along the coast of Alabama this week. And boy, oh boy, has it been cold in a whole lot of other places too. Here's hoping everybody out there is staying safe and staying warm. This week on the show, we've got some great guests for you. One of them that you're going to hear from towards the end of our program is Josh Honeycutt. He is a white-tailed deer expert. He writes for Outdoor Life, and he's penned an article about the 16 hunting mistakes you won't make again this season. We're not going to get through all 16, but we're going to get through some of them, and we're going to go in depth on some of them, too. Someone else you'll hear from today is Nate Reese. We're going to revisit a conversation we had with him about the Apache trout. This unique species of trout is found in Arizona. It was endangered, but it is now on the road to recovery, and Nate's going to tell you how this is happening. And we're also going to talk to John Bailey today. He's with the National Rifle Association. That's the organization that puts on the Great American Outdoor Show. It's taking place this year, February 1st through the 9th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it is far and away the largest sportsman show in the entire world. Not only are there a ton of exhibitors there, there's lots of things for the kids to do, a 3D archery shoot, dock dogs, and even a country music festival. John will tell you more about that during the show today. By the way, this portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at Worksharp. They are the folks out of Ashland, Oregon, who manufacture quality knife and tool sharpeners that you'll find in hardware stores and sporting goods stores all over North America. You can also find them online anytime at worksharptools.com. Now, one thing they've come out with recently is an inexpensive little item that's really handy. It's a folding knife sharpener that you can just carry in your pocket or on your belt, and it's perfect for hunters who are on the go and might have to sharpen their knives while they are cleaning game. They also have a whole line of electric knife sharpeners and manual knife sharpeners for the kitchen. So even though you might not be hunting right now, you certainly are going to be spending some time in the kitchen this winter, and you might want to check out the lineup of knife sharpeners they have available. I've got an electric knife sharpener in my kitchen that I use on a regular basis, and it does a great job of keeping my cutlery sharp. The website again, worksharptools.com. Check it out. Next, let's give you some outdoors news. We'll start off with some news from the Sportsman's Alliance about NOAA Fisheries rescinding their proposed rule limiting vessel speed to protect right whales off the Atlantic coast. According to a press release from the Sportsman's Alliance, the proposed rule, which was intended to reduce vessel strikes of endangered right whales, was overly broad, lacked supportive data, and received backlash from lawmakers, industry members, and individuals. Right whales were listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act in 1970. NOAA claims that human disturbances such as entanglement in fishing gear and vessel strikes are the largest threat to right whales. The proposed rule, among other things, would have required all vessels 35 to 65 feet in length to abide by a 10-knot, that's about 11 miles an hour, speed restriction along most of the Atlantic coast for over half the year. Such a restriction would have resulted in dire consequences to various industries, and I'm inserting my thought here, that it definitely includes fishing boat charter captains and just casual anglers wanting to go fishing as well. Even more, these restrictions were based on bad data and outdated technology. Notably, according to the Sportsman's Alliance, only 5 right whale vessel strikes involving vessels under 65 feet in length have occurred since 2008. So this is definitely good news for boaters and anglers. In other news, it's January and it's still time to make some New Year's resolutions. One of them might be to buy a fly fishing shop and maybe go ahead and combine that with a fly fishing travel adventure business. Well, according to the angling trade media, you can do that right now in Fullerton, California. Bob Marriott's Fly Fishing Store and Fly Fishing Outfitters and Travel Agency is for sale. Kevin Bell, the owner of Bob Marriott, says, with a heart full of gratitude, I want to share an important decision about Bob Marriott's Fly Fishing Store and Wild on the Fly Adventure Travel. For For over 35 years, this shop and travel department have been my passion and a cornerstone of my life. From working from Bob Marriott to becoming an owner, it has been an incredible journey filled with cherished memories, friendships, and adventures. Now my wife and I are ready to focus on family and fully embrace life as grandparents. While stepping away is bittersweet, it's time to pass the torch to someone who will continue the legacy of the shop and travel business. Thank you for your unwavering support. It has meant the world to me. Bob Marriott's fly fishing store is known as a cornerstone of the fly fishing community and is renowned for its unparalleled selection of gear and equipment, exceptional customer service, and a global reputation for quality. Paired with Wild on the Fly Adventure Travel, which specializes in guiding clients to bucket list fishing destinations, this is more than a business, it's a gateway to the world of fly fishing. If you're interested in taking over this legendary fly shop and travel business, you can call Kevin at the following number. I'm going to say it 3 times for you. 714-404-2007. That's 714-404-2007. Again, 714-404-2007. And if one of you listeners out there ends up buying it, I want to do an interview with you. Next, a question for you. How did your deer hunting go between 2023 and 2024? According to the National Deer Association, for a lot of you, it went quite well. Mature buck harvest rose to another new U.S. record. That's what we get out of the National Deer Association's 2025 deer report. U.S. deer hunters took more than 3 million whitetail bucks in the 2023-24 hunting season and set a new record in mature buck harvest, as 43% of those bucks were estimated to be 3.5 years older. According to NDA Chief Conservation Officer Kip Adams, it's amazing to realize that more than 1 of every 3 antlered bucks shot in the U.S. is at least 3.5 years old. The National Deer Association reports that at the turn of the century, almost 50% of the national buck harvest was yearling bucks a year and a half old, and mature bucks made up less than 20%. Those age classes have flipped in the last 25 years, yearling buck harvest declining steadily. They passed each other in the 2016 season, and yearling buck harvest bottomed out at 26% in 2020 and has remained at that level ever since. If you want to check out the National Deer Association's 2025 deer report, just go to deerassociation.com. That's deerassociation.com and consider joining. And now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show.
It's time to talk record fish.
From Outdoor Life, we learn Axel Angelo, an 8-year-old from Faribault, Minnesota, caught a hefty black crappie while fishing with his dad, Ryan, on Cedar Lake in October of 2024. The fish measured 18 inches and weighed 3 pounds, 13 ounces, breaking the previous state record by over 4 ounces. Minnesota Fish and Wildlife celebrated the young boy's state record crappie being made official in a December 27th Facebook post. Outdoor Life was not able to get a hold of the Angelos, but Ryan did talk to the hometown source in Minnesota, and he told them that he'd gotten off work at the Quatona Motor Company where he's a service technician. He went home, asked his 3 kids if they wanted to go fishing, and Axel was the only taker. So without even changing out of his work uniform, the pair headed to their favorite spot on Cedar Lake. When the rod went down, they thought it was a big northern or something like that, but then it ended up being the big crappie, Ryan said. Ryan started wondering if they maybe had a record fish on their hands, so they measured it and weighed it, and they figured, yes, this is a record. The next morning, they weighed Axel's fish at the Minnesota DNR's Waterville Area Fisheries Office, and then they filled out the official paperwork. So congratulations, Ryan and Axel. That is an incredible evening of fishing.
Congratulations on your new record.
Stick around. Right after a short word from our sponsors, we're going to be talking to Nate Reese with Trout Unlimited about the recovery of the Apache trout in Arizona. Sportsman's Cove Lodge is Alaska's best lodge, and as you know, I'm a big fan. I've been to Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska several times. I love the float plane ride in. I love the fishing for halibut, salmon, and cod, and I can't get enough of the fantastic food and dynamite hospitality that they offer at the lodge. Now they are building new accommodations, new rooms that'll have television. They've brought Wi-Fi to the lodge too, and they're even offering extended 7-day stays with not just fishing, but other adventures too, as well as the opportunity to have a corporate retreat. Find out more about Sportsman's Cove Lodge and book your stay today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com, and use the promo code RADIO10. That's Radio10. Let me repeat that one more time. That's alaskasbestlodge.com and the promo code Radio10 for 10% off your next adventure.
Modular. When it comes to getting the most out of your Camp Chef 2-burner propane stove, that's the word to use. Sure, you can cook directly over either burner with a pot or pan, but how about putting a grill box on to serve up burgers, steaks, or chicken? Put a griddle on to cook up your breakfast. Pizza? We've got that covered too with our pizza oven that you place right over the stove. Whatever you're cooking while camping or at home, Camp Chef has got you covered. Find out more about modular stove accessories at campchef.com today.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from. Made in America or not made at all. And backed by a lifetime guarantee. Order a free catalog, decals, and a list of Henry dealers in your area. Go to henryusa.com or call 1-800-958-4993. Thank you and God bless America.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Nate Rees on the line. He's a state lead for Trout Unlimited in the state of Arizona. They've got a special trout down there. It's called the Apache trout. It's not only the state trout for Arizona, but it's also a trout that's being removed from the endangered species list, something you don't hear about that often. Nate, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me. And yeah, it's a pretty special time we're in right now. Being a sport fish, I think it's the first sport fish to ever be proposed for delisting. So yeah, we're really excited here and so special to have our own kind of personal native trout here in Arizona.
I think most of our listeners are completely unaware of the Apache trout, what it looks like. Why don't you go ahead and describe it to our listeners?
Sure. I mean, it's a native trout to Arizona. It resides both on the White Mountain Apache Tribe Reservation and public lands. And it's goldish in color, kind of black spots, white tips on the fins, but it's been described as kind of a golden trout in this kind of historic record. When we see stringers full of 100 trout in old historic photos, the description was it's the golden trout. So yeah, I would say goldish in color, but lives in the headwaters and spawns in main stem. So it can range from, 5 or 6 inches up to, 14, 15, 16 inches we found in the main stem.
When people think of Arizona, they always think of the desert. But the fact of the matter is, in the White Mountains, it's anything but that. And the Apache tribe actually started taking steps to conserve the Apache trout way back in 1955. Tell us about this.
Yeah, the White Mountain Apache tribe, they realized that this fish was essentially being stressed, whether it was from grazing techniques, logging practices, overfishing, introduction of non-natives, and they took the first step to put in their own regulations on their own reservation to stop fishing for the Apache trout. And this was before the Endangered Species Act even. So they had the foresight to protect this fish before we as a government recognized it. So yeah, they've been a conservation partner, of course, from the beginning, and they've been the real leaders in the restoration of their species, of the Apache trout. And we've been trying to follow and keep up with them. But to be honest, we've been taking their lead because they played such a pivotal role in the preservation and restoration of this species.
The Apache trout has been listed as an endangered species. What's been done to recover this species?
Mostly, what's been done is habitat restoration, removal of non-native species within their historic range. And so on the public land side, at least the part of the side that Trout Unlimited works mostly on, we've worked with the Forest Service and the Game and Fish Department to help reintroduce native populations in the headwaters. So it involves backpacking fishing and restocking Apache trout back into their historic streams. We've done habitat restoration work. There's certain areas of the forest that, habitat wasn't what it was 100 years ago from a collection of reasons, but we've worked to do habitat restoration to open up more spawning and connection of habitat. I'd say the biggest goal that we're working to and the biggest threat that the Apache trout faces, on public lands at least, is connection of habitat. Right now we're seeing a lot of isolation in headwater streams. And what we're working towards is a metapopulation and connectivity of stream systems. So say there is a wildfire or historic drought or, something's happening, those fish can move out of those headwater sections into a main stem and then find refuge in another stream. And so what we're really working towards is connectivity on the landscape. And we've done that in a few cases, but there can always be more. So I think what's really going to help this fish into the future, especially with the future that we're looking in with getting a little drier in the southwest, a little warmer, is going to be connection of the landscape. And that's our main focus. Trout Unlimited's main focus, the Forest Service, Game and Fish Department, we're working towards that.
The restocking efforts, very old school. We're not talking by helicopter, by plane. We're talking about backpacking in 5-gallon buckets of trout, aren't we?
That's right, yep. We rely heavily on volunteers. It will be, just like you said, a 5-gallon bucket, almost filled completely to the top with water, a lid on top, of course, a little aerator pump for the trout. And, sometimes we're backpacking these trout 5 or 6 miles each way. So it's quite a dedication from our volunteers and from the people, but it's such a special fish, and people are so connected to this fish in the landscape that they're happy to do it.
Getting back to the landscape where these trout thrive, the White Mountains, I look at it and it reminds me of the Pacific Northwest and the Cascade Mountains. It's not what people think of as Arizona at all.
No, not at all. It's the White Mountains ranges anywhere from 7 to up to 11,000 feet. We have lush, wet meadows. It holds water. There's hundreds of perennial streams that hold water year-round. And it really is its kind of own pocket of refuge in the state of Arizona. Throughout the rest of the state, it's really dependent on rainfall, to produce forage and that for big game animals. But in the White Mountains, it's pretty much water year-round and can sustain drought. And so, we see that as our main focus for TU's project work is in that White Mountains, because we know if we dump a couple $1 million into a project that, our climate models show that there's going to be water there for the next 100 years. We're not worried about the impacts of climate change as much in those sort of areas as we are, maybe other parts of Arizona. So it's a special place, and Arizona as a whole is so special in its diversity. I think we have 8 to 10 different binomes, so different types of elevation or different types of habitat, spanning different elevation ranges across the whole state. So our diversity of species and ecosystems in the state is really unique and I think one of a kind.
The trout is being proposed for delisting. Does that mean you can actually fish for them now or not?
Yeah, so they're being proposed for delisting. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service made the announcement, has solicited comments, and this was back in, I believe October that they solicited comments. We submitted comments in support of the delisting as well as of a lot of other groups. But yes, you currently can fish for them. There's I think roughly 5 streams on public lands within the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest that you can fish for these trout. And as we work towards opening up more streams by conducting more restoration projects, that number will just grow. We're finding the more habitat restoration that we can do, the better these populations are thriving. And of course, the better the populations do, then we can recommend those streams for open to angling. So yeah, we're definitely making an impact on the landscape, and it's something that someone can travel to and fish for, and they can count it towards their native and wild trout challenge, and get a coin for it essentially.
Last but not least, Nate, you're a bit of a movie star. You actually are in a film about the restoration of the Apache trout. Where can folks see this documentary film?
Yeah, John, if they want to learn more about Apache trout and see the film, it's actually on one of Trout Unlimited's landing pages. That's going to be prioritywaters.tu.org/resilience. And Resilience is the name of the video that we've created. And it's a really great video that kind of overviews the historic story of the Apache trout. We have a lot of interviews with the White Mountain Apache tribe, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Game and Fish, and showcasing everyone banding together and working towards one common goal of restoring the species that has been so resilient through the decades.
I couldn't agree more. Definitely worth a watch. Again, the website, prioritywaters.tu.org/resilience. Check it out. Learn more about the Apache trout. And if you are into cold water fisheries conservation, definitely go to tu.org because Trout Unlimited is all about that. Nate, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for having me.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Kruse through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse, and we are going to tell you about the world's largest outdoor show. It's the Great American Outdoor Show. It's put on every year by the National Rifle Association. It's happening February 1st through the 9th at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex in Harrisburg, PA. With us here to tell you more about it is John Bailey. He's the director of NRA Shows and Exhibits. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Glad to be on.
You know, I exhibited a couple of bigger sportsman shows in the western U.S., but none of them compare with how big yours is. We'll start off by just talking about how much square footage is at this show.
Sure, yeah. So we're at the PA Farm Show Complex, covering 650,000 square feet of exhibits at the show, and we've got over 1,000 exhibitors.
That's absolutely amazing. And the length of the show, 9 days. I'll be honest, 5 days kicks my butt. I don't know how your exhibitors do it.
Yeah, 9 days is a long run, especially in February in PA, certainly. But, you know, it's one of the last remaining long sports shows that's out there with 9 days. And, you know, over that span of that period, we'll see approximately 200,000 people through the door.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So let's talk about some of the exhibitors who are at the show. Now, I understand you've got over 400 outfitters and boat captains from all over the world?
Correct, yes.
Wow. Talk about some great choices there. So you can book trips to Alaska, you can book trips to Africa, or just about anywhere else, can't you?
Yeah, you can find a trip anywhere you want to go. It's really a one-stop shop where it gives the attendee the opportunity to, you know, with 1, 2 days, 3 days, be able to go through and interview and meet all the different outfitters and fishing guides and there's other excursions as well. So it's really just a one-stop shop for any of that bucket list trip that you may want to take in the next year or two.
You know, one thing that your show has that a lot of shows don't is lots of firearms that people can actually handle and feel and decide if this is right for them, and lots of archery equipment.
Yes, we have one whole entire hall dedicated just to firearms and firearms accessories. We have the show broken out into different areas where it's all categorized. So we have an archery hall, We have a 3D shoot. We have a outdoor products, outfitter section, motorsports areas. It's just RVs and campers and outdoor lifestyles. So it's a little bit of everything for everyone. I mean, it's really, it celebrates hunting, fishing, and the outdoor traditions treasured by all, millions of Americans. So it's phenomenal.
I'm curious about the boats. Are we mainly talking a lot of bass boats? Are we talking about big water boats? Are we talking about seagoing boats, or all the above?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. We've got certainly a lot of bass boats, but there's some larger boats as well. But we have an entire hall dedicated just to boats.
Now, tell me more about the 3D Bow Hunter Challenge.
Sure. So that's a competition we do every year, and we have that's set up in one whole section of the complex where attendees can register in advance on our website and actually compete, shooting at 3D targets. We design the course, and they go through the course and compete and can win prizes and trophies at the end of it.
Nice. Now, a lot of folks come to the shows to learn, to become better hunters, anglers, or outdoorsmen or women. And I understand you've got 200 seminars that run over these 9 days?
We do, John. Yeah, there's probably, I think, our last count, we were about 235. So it's every single day of the show, we've got content running the entire time. A lot of well-known speakers. Ralph and Vicky are going to be there, and Seek One, and it really runs the gamut from hunting, fishing, personal protection, land management, you name it, and we got it.
Tell me a little bit more about the celebrities that are going to be there.
Yeah, so on our website, you can see all of them. We have them listed with their bios at greatamericanoutdoorshow.org. But Melissa Bachman, for example, I mentioned Seek One, Ralph and Vicky are there. And then we have, really, it runs the gamut. I think we have, close to 30, 35 different speakers over the 9 days.
Well, color me impressed. And speaking of impressed, you always have a great country concert. Who is going to be singing this year?
Yeah, sure. So we have Riley Green this year, and that's going to take place on Saturday, February the 8th. And opening up for Riley will be John Morgan. And I think that show is sold out or close to sold out. I think we have maybe a handful of tickets left, but always a popular event, and that's put on by NRA Country and also sponsored by Walther Arms and Strum Ruger and Company as well. So it's an exciting event, and people have come to expect a good concert at the show. We're excited about that.
Let's talk about a few other things that are happening. I understand the Pennsylvania Lumberjack Championship is going off. What is this all about?
Yeah, so we brought that in last year for the first time, and it was just such a huge hit that we decided to bring it back. And that's going to actually be in a large arena of the show starting Saturday and running through Wednesday. And yeah, they're doing the hot saw, which is one of the favorite events out there. And there's several different events that they're going to be conducting, and some of the most lumberjacks across the country will be in for the show. So it's really just a crowd favorite, and it runs concurrently with the Dock Dogs presentation as well, which is a dog competition where they're jumping into the water and have various competitions and things like that. So that's just a great family fun event.
Oh, it sure is. That is a lot of fun to watch. I had a Springer Spaniel that I tried to enter into a Dock Dogs contest, and let's just say it didn't work out, but that's okay. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other things you've got for the kids.
Yeah, so no, it's definitely a family-friendly event. There's something for everybody there. We have the Eddie Eagle Kids Zone at the show with a lot of games and crafts and face painting and things like that. There's the trout pond where the young ones can try their hand at fishing. We have a casting contest that awards prizes for folks that are accurate at when they cast. And there's just a lot of family fun events. We have an airsoft range as well there for folks that want to try their hand at that.
Well, it sounds fantastic. Is there anything else folks should know about the Great American Outdoor Show?
Yeah, it's just the show it's a phenomenal event. I will say that we're kicking off the night before the show opens on Friday the 31st, actually, with the NRA Foundation Sportsman's Auction, and that's going to feature games. That's a ticketed event. It features games of chance. It's a live auction, silent auction. You can win firearms, hunts, fishing excursions, and other outdoor products. There's food, drink, fellowship, and, it's fun. And the good thing about that event, all the money raised supports the NRA Foundation and the shooting sports, and 100% of the monies raised is distributed in the forms of grants across the country to youth groups and other deserving organizations. So that kicks the show off. And really there's, we'll have live music various days throughout the show in the small arena. And there's just something different every day. So, we offer single-day passes, 2-day passes. So really, it's hard to see the show in just one day, so a lot of folks take advantage of our 2-day package.
I was going to ask about that very thing because, when you told me how big this was, I was thinking, I don't know how you could do this in a day. So great that you have the 2-day package. Again, folks, it's the Great American Outdoor Show, the world's largest outdoor show. You can find out more and buy your tickets now by going to greatamericanoutdoorshow.org. That's greatamericanoutdoorshow.org. The dates again, February 1st through the 9th in Harrisburg, PA. Definitely a show you don't want to miss.
Yeah, no, I hope you can make it down. It's a great event, particularly if you've never been. And parking's easy. You can park on site at the facility. We actually offer free parking at the Harrisburg Mall, and we have shuttles that will run people back and forth as well.
Sounds like a can't miss event, so don't miss it. John, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Fantastic. We appreciate it.
This portion of the show is brought to you every week by our friends at Henry Repeating Arms. It's a company I really get behind because they make all of their firearms right here in America. Now, Henry Repeating Arms is known for their classic, beautiful lever-action rifles, and they come in all sorts of different calibers. Everything from .22 caliber up to .30-30s and .357s and .45-70s and a whole lot more. They also have recently come out with revolvers and a 9mm carbine that's great for self-defense or to have out on the ranch. And they've even got some single-shot and lever-action shotguns, too. All of their firearms are rugged, reliable, accurate right out of the box, and they all come with a lifetime satisfaction guarantee. So go to henryusa.com, check out the lineup of products they have available, look for an authorized dealer near you, and don't forget to ask for your free decals and catalog while you're there. The website again, henryusa.com. Sportsman's Cove Lodge is Alaska's best lodge, and as you know, I'm a big fan. I've been to Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska several times. I love the float plane ride in. I love the fishing for halibut, salmon, and cod, and I can't get enough of the fantastic food and dynamite hospitality that they offer at the lodge. Now they are building new accommodations, new rooms that'll have television. They've brought Wi-Fi to the lodge too. And they're even offering extended 7-day stays with not just fishing, but other adventures too, as well as the opportunity to have a corporate retreat. Find out more about Sportsman's Cove Lodge and book your stay today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com, and use the promo code RADIO10. That's Radio10. Let me repeat that one more time. That's alaskasbestlodge.com and the promo code Radio10 for 10% off your next adventure.
When you think of Work Sharp knife and tool sharpeners, you probably think of sharpeners for the shop or the field, but Work Sharp has a whole lineup of sharpeners for the kitchen, too. We're talking about everything from easy-to-use manual and electric knife sharpeners to ceramic honing rods, whetstones, and the new rolling knife sharpener, an innovative manual sharpener that will do wonders for your cutlery. Make sure there's never a dull moment in your kitchen. Check out the entire product line and order today at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com.
It's Sportsman Show season, and the two biggest shows happening in the Northwest are coming up quick. The Washington Sportsman Show is happening January 29th through February 2nd at the Washington State Affairs Center in Puyallup, and the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show is going off February 12th through the 16th at the Expo Center in Portland. There's going to be hundreds of exhibitors, great deals, celebrity appearances, and seminars galore. Find out more at otshows.com.
You know, the new year is a great time to reconsider how we do things, like how to make things better in 2025. Like when it comes to the whole struggle of how to pay for your health care, people generally are not happy with the status quo. But there's good news. There's a much better option, and it's proven too. MediShare is refreshing. You can save thousands of dollars a year. Many save up to $500 a month, seriously, and you get to choose from a huge network of doctors and providers. And maybe the best part, and we know this from research on why people join Medishare, they love this, instead of sending your money every month to a huge corporation that might fund all sorts of procedures or things you don't believe in, you're joining a faith-based network of people who actually care about each other. And like I said, that's refreshing. There is a better option. You don't have to do it the way you've always done it. You can make a change and start saving now. Here's the number. They're easy to talk to. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Our next stop is Kentucky. That is the home of Josh Honeycutt. He just wrote a really good article for Outdoor Life that you can read at outdoorlife.com. If you go to the deer hunting section, it's all about 16 deer hunting mistakes you won't make again next season. Josh, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all 16, but we're going to certainly try. And this is all about mistakes that you've made that you don't want to make again. And we'll start off with trail cameras, because there's a couple of things there.
Yeah, checking trail cameras too often, that's a big one. Something that I did a lot early on as a hunter. When trail cameras first came out, they were brand new. Yeah, I remember, days of, really trying to overcome the impulse to go pull SD cards and see what was on those cameras, and it was just becoming too much, and I was applying too much hunting pressure. The frequency of which you can check trail cameras, the traditional SD cameras, it varies based on the situation, based on where those cameras are located, based on the element or volume of human intrusion it requires to reach those cameras in relation to pressuring deer. So there's a lot of factors there, and deer hunting is very situational, but you can definitely check your trail cameras too often. Of course, with the modern implementation of cellular trail cameras, that's less of a concern, especially if you have those attached to an external power source, which gives them plenty more battery life than just internal batteries. But yes, checking trail cameras too often or visiting cellular cameras to replace batteries too often can be an issue.
And this goes right down to just plain visiting hunting areas too often, whether you're checking your trail camera or doing physical scouting.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about being too passive or too aggressive. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. Again, deer hunting is situational. That's one of the biggest things and most overlooked elements, I think, when it comes to outdoor riding, outdoor TV, outdoor whatever the media is. We don't talk about it enough. Deer hunting is situational. And so there are situations where you can be too passive and fail. Or there are situations where you can be too aggressive and fail. And you have to assess the individual situation you find yourself in to determine the volume, the intensity of the aggressiveness or passiveness in order to determine what the accurate play is for that particular situation. So deer hunting is a balance of being aggressive and passive. You don't want to be too aggressive and botch an opportunity. You don't want to be too passive and lose out on an opportunity. So you have to analyze the situation. Some of the greatest hunters out there, they understand that intricate balance, and they deploy their tactics and their efforts accordingly. So I know that's really surface level and vague, and you have to get into specific examples to really illustrate that, which takes a lot of time. But just remember, deer hunting is situational, and you have to analyze all the elements and all the variables and factors in order to determine what the right play is for each individual hunt.
The next one I can definitely relate to. It applies not only to big game hunters, but also bird hunters too. And that's not putting in time at the range.
Yeah, that's another one. No matter how experienced or proficient you become, you want to practice as much as possible. The opportunities to shoot or to fill a tag or to reach a limit, they're minuscule in comparison to all the time spent surrounding the overarching theme of hunting. So you want to practice as much as possible in order to ensure the highest possible odds of success in that very specific moment that you find yourself in. Because it's very easy to allow your emotions to overcome your reasoning or at least your skills. And so you're dealing with a lot of different elements there. You're dealing with emotion, you're dealing with reason, you're dealing with objectivity. All these different things come into play. And so the more time you spend on the range repeating your skill sets or practicing your skill sets, in addition to putting yourself in real life situations, that's a big one, practicing real life situations that you anticipate finding yourself in when it comes to being in the field. those are really important. So it's not just spending time on the range, but quality time on the range. And so you want to make sure you're practicing real life hunting scenarios. Whatever that type of hunting is for you, mimic and create situations where you can practice what you're going to end up experiencing in the field.
Well said. All right, let's turn to deer stands. Choosing poor stand locations is a mistake you don't want to make next season.
Yeah, there's a lot of different places that you can hunt on any given property and you can shoot a deer. Deer hunting is very different from shooting a mature buck. So we're just talking whitetails. So shooting a deer and shooting a mature buck, two very different things, require two very different approaches and require very different thought processes. So the basic underlying tactics involved in deer hunting and hunting mature bucks are the same. The basics. You've got to be cognizant of the wind. You've got to understand deer lines of movement. You have to determine where along their general paths they're most susceptible for them and least susceptible for you to be, identified as a human being, in their environment. So the basic elements of deer hunting and hunting mature bucks are the same. But when you elevate, and I don't mean that to say that a mature buck hunter is better, but it requires additional layers of understanding in order to be consistently successful at shooting the most mature, the smartest, the most seasoned and experienced whitetails that are on the landscape. Because mature bucks act very differently from young bucks and does. They just do. And so when you have to add layers of understanding in order to be able to accomplish that. So choosing poor stand locations is obviously a mistake, and a good stand location to just shoot a deer and, choosing a stand location to shoot a mature buck are going to be very, very different. And there's a lot of different elements to that. It's very multifaceted, and you have to understand different things, such as, I'll just give one because this is a big one because we don't have time to talk about a bunch, but bucks will use the wind in their favor. And so oftentimes you have to give them an element of that wind. That's what you call hunting just off wind. So if anybody's interested in that, just Google just off winds for deer hunting. You'll be able to learn about it. But there's just choosing the poor stand locations is going to be a mistake, and it might be a good stand location for generalized deer hunting, but it's going to be the absolute wrong stand location for hunting mature bucks.
We're talking to Josh Honeycutt, writing for Outdoor Life, about 16 deer hunting mistakes you don't want to make next season. Another one is about not just the location of your deer hunting stand, but the access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. A stand location might be good. It might be good for generalized deer hunting if that's what you're doing. It might be good for hunting mature bucks if that's what you're doing. But if you can't get to that stand location without deer detecting you, whether that's seeing, hearing, or smelling you, it's unlikely to be a successful hunt. So you have to understand that stand locations are going to be as good as the access routes that you take to and from those spots. If you can't get to that stand without deer seeing you, it's good for 0 hunts. If you can get to that stand without deer seeing you, but you can't get back out without them seeing you, it's going to be good for 1 hunt. Now, you can come back the next day after alerting deer to your presence, and then you're still going to see deer. But what you're going to notice over time is each individual hunt, each subsequent hunt where you are alerting deer to your presence in one way or another is going to result in diminished returns. So each time you go, you're going to see fewer deer. You're going to see younger deer because the older deer are getting wise to you, what you're doing, and it doesn't take as long for them to react to that. And you just have to understand a tree stand is only as good as the access route that you take to and from it. So I would rather have a somewhat lesser stand location with lesser odds of success that has good access than a great quote-unquote stand location that's in the absolutely right spot, but you can't get there or get back out without alerting deer.
Running short on time. We got time for one more, though, and that would be rushing the tracking job.
Yeah, deer tracking is a very detailed-oriented skill. It's a skill set that requires attention to detail, and that's true for most skill sets when it comes to hunting, but you have to recover wounded and dead game the right way. Hunters must be knowledgeable of whitetail anatomy. They have to take the right shots. They have to understand hits, angles, whether that be elevation or windage. Trajectory through the vitals can be very different, even within inches or centimeters or millimeters. So the actual tracking part requires patience. It requires experience. You have to make sure you are understanding of where you hit that deer. You have to look at the telltale signs that provide information and clues as to where that hit was at. And you just have to wait the proper amount of time. So each individual type of hit, whether that's a double lung hit or a single lung hit or a heart shot or through the liver, or one lung in a liver, or the paunch, or an artery, whatever the type of shot location it ends up being is going to dictate how much time you need to give that deer before you follow up and track it. Obviously, there's external factors as well. There's coyotes, there's temperature. So you have to factor in and weigh everything out and kind of sort through this metaphorical algorithm in your head to figure out, okay, what's the right amount of time to wait? What's the right approach? There's even different types of ways to recover deer. And so when you're trying to track a deer, you have to give it an amount of time and use the proper resources and follow the proper routines in order to be successful in recovering wounded and dead game.
That's Josh Honeycutt, folks, writing for Outdoor Life about the 16 deer hunting mistakes you don't want to make next season. Check it out at outdoorlife.com. Just go to the hunting section and then the deer hunting section. You'll find it right away. Josh, thanks for imparting all this knowledge to our listeners on America Outdoors Radio.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Time to put a bow on this edition of America Outdoors Radio. If you didn't get to hear the whole show, we'll upload it as a podcast in a few days. Just look for America Outdoors Radio. And I'm going to be at the Washington Sportsman Show next week, exhibiting in Puyallup, Washington. So you'll be getting a best of edition next week. Hopefully, I'll get to see some of you at the show. Until next time, be blessed and do remember this. It is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.